Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I want to give you all my beginner's guide to playing baritone guitars. Let's get into it. So what is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. My name's Ray. I'm a guitar player here on YouTube. I'm a baritone guitar player here on YouTube as well as in real life, which is what I'm going to be talking about. Now, before I start rambling and start talking about baritone guitars, if there's a question you have about a baritone guitar, just the overall philosophy of baritones, and I don't answer it in this video, by all means, please feel free to leave it down below in the comments, and I'll meet you down below. I really am passionate about baritone guitars, and my goal with this video and my goal with answering comments is to try to educate and help out. So again, if you have any questions or anything like that, leave them down below in the comments and I'll meet you down there, okay? So today's video is to answer all those questions about where to start with a baritone, why a baritone, what I look for in a baritone, and how I use it creatively and artistically, and basically just my overall philosophy of what a baritone guitar means to me, alright? So let's start very basic, very bare bones. What is a baritone guitar? Well, baritone guitar, at its core, at its most plain definition, is literally a longer scale length guitar. So the scale length of a guitar is measured from the nut all the way down to where the strings rest on the bridge. Now, a lot of guitars are different. There's different bridges and stuff like that, but basically, that is the scale length. So this guitar is a baritone guitar because it has a 26 3/4 inches scale. Now there's different varying degrees of what a baritone guitar scale length is, but basically, general rule of thumb, anything past 26 inches is arguably a baritone. It's funny, there's like really not a definitive start and end point of what a baritone guitar is, but generally speaking, they live around the 27 to 28 range. This one's a little bit shorter by 1/4 inch, but that's generally where the ballpark is. We'll just say 27 for simplicity's sake, okay? So to recap, baritone guitar, just a longer scale length, okay? Next question, why would you use a baritone guitar? Reason being is because a baritone allows you to tune lower and get a lot more note quality and note definition in lower tunings. The lower the tuning, the harder it is to record it, to maintain its tension, to maintain its literal pitch. It goes in and out of tune very easily, and you have to use a lot of heavy gauge strings the lower you go. So to compensate all those problem areas, you get a longer scale and you can use lighter gauge strings, and you have more tension and more intonation ability with your tuning of your baritone guitar. Now, for example, my left hand is my Reverend baritone. Here is my Jim Root Stratocaster. This is a 25.5 inch scale. This is 26 3/4. So if I was to tune this guitar, which is currently tuned to drop B, down to what this guitar is tuned to, which is drop G, it'd be relatively impossible to tune this all the way down to drop G. I would have to use a really, really heavy gauge string, and it just wouldn't sound as good and wouldn't have as much note definition, and it would be rather hard to play and maintain. Now, in my opinion, there's two ways to think about a baritone guitar. Baritone guitar, for me, in my own brain, the way I rationalize it and the way it works, is you can either use a baritone for like the drop C to drop A range, or you can use it in very, very low tunings, like anything past drop A, like drop G, F, drop E if you really want to have some fun. But yeah, there's basically like two tuning ranges, we'll call it, like between drop C and A, or like drop G to drop E, and as low as you can possibly go. Now I have this one right here. This is a Douglas baritone, a very affordable, cheap baritone guitar with a 27 inch scale, and this guitar is actually tuned to drop A sharp. Now I've had a demo of this guitar on my channel. Here's a quick little sound bit of what this guitar sounds like in drop A sharp. And I think this guitar sounds really, really good, especially in that tuning. I think it sounds even better with a baritone because you have a lighter gauge of strings and a longer scale length. To get this guitar down to drop A sharp, I am using the DR strings 11 to 54. And these guitar strings are not that heavy in the grand scheme of things, but having this scale length to compensate for the not heavy gauge of strings allows this guitar to have a lot more note clarity and note definition, and I just think it sounds really, really good, even though it's a relatively cheap guitar. Now this guitar is my favorite baritone. You know how I said there's two tuning ranges? This is the other end of the spectrum, the super low stuff. This is my favorite guitar to record with for the super low tunings. This is tuned all the way down to drop F. Way down there, right? Almost an octave lower than a standard tuned guitar. And so this guitar is so desirable and so awesome to record in super low tunings because it has a 30-inch scale length. This is, in my opinion, the longest a baritone guitar is without it becoming like a bass. I've never really seen anything longer than 30 inches. There might be one out there, but generally speaking, they stop at 30 inches. Now for this guitar and all my baritone guitars, I use the Ernie Ball Baritone Slinky set, which is 13 to 72. Now a 72 on the bottom is very heavy and very big of a guitar string, but it's not that big in the grand scheme of things. So having a super low tuning, match that with a 72 and a super long scale length, it's like the perfect balance for me to be able to tune it super low but still have some playability on the lower strings where it's not like a giant bridge cable. Yeah, so it's just like a happy medium. Quick little soundbite. Here's what this thing sounds like in drop F. Now the last part of this video I want to talk about is pros and cons of baritone guitars, alright? We'll start with the cons, the negatives. The only one that I can really think of is the inability to really play higher register notes. Generally speaking, you know, if you're a shredder, you're probably not going to play baritone guitars. Generally speaking, I know there's always going to be somebody that will argue literally anything I say, right? But generally speaking, if you want to shred, a baritone guitar is probably not for you. Just because you already have a 13 on the top, you know, 13 gauge, and all these other strings are just they're rather big, and you're tuned down low. So all these notes, even though if you get up in the upper register, they're not going to ring out as clear or as high of timbre compared to like a standard tuned guitar. You're kind of in the lows for a reason. You want to play baritone guitar, so you're probably going to play the lower notes anyway, right? So in my opinion, I really don't see a reason why you would want to play a lot of fast lead stuff on a baritone guitar. It just, you know, obviously somebody could do it and does do it out there, but just for me personally, I would just grab a standard scale guitar if I wanted to play like some fast lead stuff. And the other con, it's not necessarily really a con or a negative, it's just something to keep in mind, is you got to watch your low end, especially when recording baritone guitars. Now, baritone guitars have lower tunings, right? So the lower the tuning, the more low end is built up when recording. So in order to compensate for that, whether it's on your amplifier, on your plug-in, whatever post-processing you want to use, just keep in mind less low end is better, especially with a baritone. It'll just cut more and it'll just sound better, for lack of a better word. Now the pros. Well, the pro, I really only think there's one giant glaring positive and the main reason why anybody would want to play a baritone guitar, and that is just you have the ability to tune super low and keep it relatively clean compared to doing the same thing or attempting to do the same thing on a standard tuned guitar. I personally love tuning super low because it just allows me to be as creative as I possibly can, man. Like I said in the beginning of this video, over time, over the past 18 months, give or take, I've really become almost exclusively a baritone guitar player. And for me, it just personally resonates with me. It just, those riffs and those sounds and those tones are just something that I personally gravitate towards and that inspire me to create. I've never been one to be inspired by wanting to learn super fast guitar solos. That's just not who I am as a player. What inspire me are like rather slow, bouncy, just heavy riffs. That's just how my brain works, and that's why I just realized that over time, that's why I gravitate towards a baritone. It's all about the riffs. The riffs just sound better on baritones, and just something about the lower tunings. It's not only just inspiring and fun to listen to for me, but it's also a little bit unique, you know what I mean? And when I say unique, I mean this. There's a million guitar players out there, right? So I just think if you can carve out your niche any way possible in just music in general, that's a win for me. So I realized over time, hey, I love riffs, I love low tunings. I feel like I'm carving out my niche and really like making a statement and identifying my own self, creating my own identity as a guitar player, as a musician, as an artist. And I feel like I do that better with a baritone guitar. So everybody, to wrap up this video, I'll just say this. If you're interested in wanting to play a baritone guitar, I see no reason why you wouldn't, obviously, because I'm a huge fan. But I just think there's something unique and something just maybe a little bit lacking in the guitar industry, in the guitar market, in the music market, whatever you want to call it. Baritone guitars are a little left of center and a little rare and a little bit more unique. And it's just something that I've really become inspired by and just like identifying myself as a baritone guitar player. So everybody, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you learned something. I hope I answered some questions. If you're confused about anything, I apologize first off, but also too, if you want to leave your question down below in the comments, I'd be sure to do my very best to square you away and help you out, okay? So everybody, that's going to do it for this video. If you're brand new to my channel, you want to consider subscribing, I'd really appreciate it. I am out of here. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay metal. I'll see you guys next time. Later.